Hello and welcome back to the Project Automo's YouTube channel, and in today's video we are not going to be working on a Mini Cooper. In fact, we're going to be working on an MG3, and we're just going to be doing a service, air filter and spark plugs just to make sure that the car is running absolutely beautifully so we can get it back out on the road and it can continue on with its life. The MG is on about 100,000 miles, whereas the Mini was on 66, so let's crack on with it. This is a 2015 MG3. It has a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated engine producing 105 horsepower. And it has gold racing stripes, which adds at least 15 horsepower. So today we're going to be starting off with the air filter. It's got a pipe on the front and a pipe on the back, which is held on with a Jubilee clip. So of course we can quickly then just get that out. And of course once that is out, we have to get the air filter out, which is held on with just a few screws surrounding on the bottom of it. Now, while I'm unscrewing this, I would argue that an air filter is just as important as changing your oil. Like I mentioned on the Mini, that with air getting all through that and everything, of this filter in the air, if dirt goes in that over time, it reduces the amount of air that can go into the engine. And also, just, with it being dirty as well, you got to think, like, with this, it is a naturally aspirated engine. However, if it was a turboed engine and a bit of, dirt or just something got inside of that turbo, then it could just destroy it. And then of course then you need a new turbo, which is much more expensive than what you think. Or of course you can get a turbo core, which is cheaper, but yeah, you're looking a couple hundred, almost up to £1,000, which really is not good at all. Right, so I've got all the screws off and I've revealed the filter, and look at it, it is awful. This is in the worst condition I've seen one in a while. Of course, look, you've got all the leaves and stuff in there, and as you have a look, it's just dirty. It's awful. And of course, as you can see, it's starting to come through as well. So this air filter it's knackered. You need to be replacing them. They are just as important as changing your oil, in my opinion. And of course, then you have a look at the new one, and it's just so much cleaner and better. I've sourced this filter from Napa. I got it off of eBay, but got it from Napa. It's a Napa part. So yeah, let's get this fitted, and yeah, then we can move on to the spark plugs. So once we put the air filter in, we can tighten up all the bolts holding it in the housing. And then before we put the air filter back on, of course you've got your coil packs on the top here, which we need to get out in order to replace our spark plugs. So of course we're going to do our very best not to damage anything in trying to get these out. Of course you can pry them a little bit, obviously not too much, because you could end up breaking something. But yeah, then these will just pop out. Of course you'll kind of want to keep in mind the order in which they come out, so of course you can put them back in the correct order, which would be helpful. Of course, you don't put them back in the correct order, then of course you can cause a misfire, and of course it just won't be running right. And of course, if you're in a dealership or you're doing it for a friend or something, they're not going to be very happy when you give it back to them. So yeah, I'm going to get the rest of these coil packs out. Now that is just strange. It really is. So the coil pack obviously has this, and then it goes off to a HT lead, which goes to cylinder 1, but that's cylinder 4, and then cylinder 2 is a HT that runs off of a coil pack on cylinder 3. That's just really, and then it's got a bracket that runs across all of them. How very weird. China was definitely behind when it came to these cars. Well, now that all the coil packs are out, what we can do, we can get our socket in there for our spark plugs. I'd always break it off with a ratchet, in my opinion, because if you undo it with a gun or something, you may pull the threads with it, and then of course you've got a much bigger problem on your hands. So I definitely always undo spark plugs with a ratchet. There we go, first spark plug is out, and as you can have a look, it's actually not in bad condition at all. So of course you want to be looking at the tip up here. Of course it's not sooted up, it hasn't got fuel on it or anything like that, so nothing unwanted on the end of the spark plug. I was helping a friend out on his car not too long ago, and he had carbon build up all over the edge of his spark plugs. And of course, if it's too much, it can actually stop the car from starting. But of course, you can just clean them and put it back in. But always recommend just replacing the spark plugs. So I've got all the spark plugs out now, and as you can see, they're all in pretty much the same condition. You know, just really rusty here. They just look old, but of course, nothing worrying on the end of the spark plugs at all. So of course, definitely recommend a good replacement on these. Of course, we've got some MGK ones on here, and we're going to be switching to some Bosch spark plugs, which is what, of course, is a really good brand. So definitely recommend getting these if you're ever thinking about doing spark plugs on your car. So on older cars, you do need to gap the spark plugs. However, being a newer car, they just come gapped already. So we can put all the spark plugs in and tighten them up. You can get the torque figure off of the internet. It can vary from car to car, but of course we tighten these up to the correct torque procedure. Next up, we need to do the oil change, but we need to lift the vehicle high enough in the air so we can get underneath it. Now, looking underneath here, it doesn't seem too bad at all. So you've got your oil filter right here, and then you've got your drain bung over here. So what we're going to do first of all is drain the... Wow, that's really tight. I really hope it's not. That's obscenely tight. Is it a smaller socket maybe? No, that is that. Oh, that is just really tight. There we go, got it loose. So, now that that's broken loose, we can get our drainage device underneath. And that, I need to loosen this off some more by hand. So, yeah, there we go. Now, we're going to see how skilled we can make this look and not get any oil on our hands. Bang. No oil on my hands whatsoever, completely dry. It's called pure skill, that is. So we let the rest of the oil drain out. I had to keep on moving the drainage device because it was quite windy and it was just blowing oil everywhere. So once all the oil is drained out, we can put the new sump bung in. Of course, definitely using a new crush washer on the sump bung just to make sure that that is okay. And of course, we can put the sump bung in. Again, same with the spark plugs. You can find the torque figures online. However, I didn't find that, so I just tightened it up to tight with the spanner. But of course, I definitely recommend finding the torque figures online just to make sure that everything is okay. So now that the sump bung is tight, we need to drain out the oil from the oil filter. So using a socket here, I just got this from Halfords. You can then just loosen off the oil filter. Normally these are hand tight, however, it doesn't seem like this oil filter was replaced for a while. So we did just have to do this off with a tool. But of course, normally they are just hand tight. Grab the rag. There we go. We pour all the oil out of there. So just having a quick inspection of the oil filter. So of course it's a little bit more difficult to really see than what the Mini Cooper one was, because that was a insert filter. So of course this one here, you can't really see too much inside. However, you can see that there's no metal flakes in that oil there or anything. So I would argue that this engine is pretty healthy, and it just needs to keep up with some regular interval oil changes. So we'll just put the new filter in now. We'll make sure not to cross thread anything going back in, and we'll just tighten that up. Now, they're supposed to be hand tight, however, it's pretty difficult to get my hand on that particularly well. So I am just going to nip it up with a ratchet. course, if I can get the ratchet on there, of course. There we go. Get that off. Yeah, that's tight. So hand tight normally with these filters. Some of them do have a torque setting just kind of indicated on the bottom, but of course with these ones it's just hand tight. Right, so now that the filter's back on and the bung is tight, what we've got to do next is fill it up with oil. And as you can see, I've got myself some 5W20 oil. And of course, that's what's required in this. It takes 4.5 litres of oil. So of course, we're going to get that topped in now, and then we can run it. Now, you can go on a few websites out there to find out what oil your car takes and how much oil to be specific. We found ours on Halford's website. You can find it on many other websites, but this is how we found ours. Then I spilt a bit of oil, so we just had to clean it off with a bit of brake cleaner. Look at that. Perfect. She loves it. It's brilliant. Look underneath and just make sure nothing leaking out. Exactly how we want it. Yeah. She's running exactly how she should be, which is amazing. So, finishing the video where we started it. MG service done. Oil filter, air filter, spark. Well, I say air filter. I haven't refitted the air filter because if you look closely at it, it's completely wrong. So I got to wait for the right one to come. The parts for this are pretty difficult to get. So I went onto Eurocar Parts and a couple other websites as well, and all I could find was an oil filter. However, when I had a look at eBay and just kind of scouring a little bit, you can find the parts. It just takes a little bit, you know, more looking at. Whereas if it was a Volkswagen, then you can find them pretty easily. You can find them anywhere. But yeah, it really didn't cost me too much. It only cost me, I think in total with the parts for the service, cost me around 40 quid. Which isn't really too bad. I'd much rather 40 quid than an engine blowing up and having to replace that, because that's thousands of pounds. Which of course, if you don't service your car, there is the risk of an engine failure, or, you know, a part on the engine failing, which would cost more than what the service is. So I can't stress enough how much importance it is to get a service. So yeah. Anyways, I thank you very much for watching this video. I know it wasn't as in-depth as what the last one was, but we are hoping for a more in-depth video to come out soon. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.